Hi, Mark from Sharkbait. This is the second edition of our Okuma Makaira video. I just wanted to show a few more things and probably do a little better job than I did the first time out. First off, Okuma was a line that we really didn't have much of an interest in stocking until 3 or 4 years ago. They had never had a good saltwater reel in our opinion, in my opinion. I always try and make it a point to look at the different pieces at the ICAST show. And a few years ago, I went to their booth and felt a reel, the Kavala, as it turned out, and felt good. They finally had a saltwater reel that felt right. Looked around the corner and there was one of the guys from Tiburon. Actually, both the guys. Skip was over there too. And that was the beginning of Okuma's entry into serious saltwater pieces. Made a big difference being tied in with the Tiburon guys. The Tib guys always had the right ideas, never had the money to put them to fruition, typically. The Okuma guys always had the money, never had the right ideas. And this marriage of the two companies was an absolute blessing, and they've come out with some wonderful stuff since that point, beginning with the Kavala series. The Makairas were pieces that were introduced, let's see, 2010, I guess. Maybe 2009 previewed, and exciting pieces, absolutely exciting pieces. They've been on the market now for about a year. This is October 2011. They've had one full year behind them. On the long range side of things, they've taken plenty of fish in that 300-pound, 200 to 300-pound range. They've had some very good catches and they've performed flawlessly. And they've become really, in my estimation, they've redefined the state of the art in this type of reel category. They go from some small pieces on up to the big 80s. There are probably 6, 7 different reels within the Makaira series. There are a few things that stand out with the Makairas, and a few common features. They all feature lugs or plugs, meaning the lugs are reversible. They can also be smoothed on top, or you can have the lugs and harness up. They're all Type 2 anodized. They all use a double dog anti-reverse system. More about that later. They all have helical cut gears for very, very smooth gear meshing. They feel right and they perform right. And their drag setting is nothing short of best in the business. The small pieces, like a little 8, like this piece, which is a new one. The 10s and the 15s, all in this size frame, or this size diameter. The width and the spool change in 3 models between the 8, 10, and 15. Those will do up to 34 pounds of drag measured at full with free spool performance. 34 pounds of drag on a real small reel. When we get into their 20s and the 30s, we're talking 55 pounds of drag on a 30 class reel. And just one note here, Makairas, Okuma in general, they do their numbering system a little bit differently than other reels. A 20 Makaira is essentially a 30 narrow, or a 30 standard from Penn or Avid or anybody else. Their 30 is a wide, and you'll notice also, open top on the narrows, crossbar on the wides, with one exception. These pieces, pretty doggone strong. But the 30 class, up to 55 pounds worth of drag. When we get into their 50 class, we're dealing with pieces that will do, it's about 80 pounds worth of drag on the 50 series. When we get into the 80s, you've got over 100 pounds worth of drag capability. Specifically, I think it's about 105 or something like that when you really get around to testing them, which is kind of hard to do on a reel of that size, and with that much drag. You're never going to be fishing reels at that level, typically, but it gives you a sense for how much headroom you've got, just like a car. You've got a certain amount of operable bandwidth or RPM range, and if you're at the red line the whole time, it's not going to last very long, and bad things can happen. With big fish, bad things will happen if you push things over the edge. So these guys, in the operating sense of where you're actually going to be fishing them, you're treating them conservatively. If you work with your equipment conservatively, it's going to last a long time and it's not going to fail you. These guys have the best drag in the business at this point in time. They've listened to the best people, between the folks over at Tiburon. Cal's was involved. As far as anti-corrosion material, they use Corrosion X internally. They use Cal's drag grease. for a smooth drag performance. There's no, noticeable jerkiness on the startup and then, fade away. They don't do that. They've got wonderful drags and they're very smooth in operation. Handle crank is right, anti-reverse right. They've done a lot of things right. Now I'm going to put this on pause for a second. We'll come back and we'll zone in a little bit, do some close-ups of the reels. Just a moment. Okay, now we can zoom in here a little closer on this piece. All of the Makairas are 2-speed reels. That's one point to bring out. The shift mechanism, as you can see here, very simple to operate. You'll go ahead and drop down in gear ratio by pushing the center button to release it. To bump back up is a release. All of the reels utilize a T-bar handle. Again, that's Tiburon inspired innovation, and it's a wonderful thing to have on a reel. You really get some power out of a T-bar. So shifting mechanism is very easy and straightforward. I can use an index finger and a thumb to drop down and to bring it up. And in terms of the gear ratios, this is another thing where the folks at Okuma listened. Their lows are real low, even on the little small piece, like a little 8 here. Let's bring this on over. You're dropping down in gear ratio on your load at 2 to 1. That's powerful. And this little piece will do about 350 yards of 50-pound Spectra, just about 300 to 65, running a real shorty topper, typically on this piece. When you get to the 8, you can use the same sort of spooling, but you've got room for 70, 80 yards worth of mono on top. Now, one thing that these guys all do, which is a wonderful thing for long-term ownership, is that these reels have a number of different points for drainage on them. Most reels will give you one point at the gear case where water can dissipate, where it can be eliminated. That's a nice thing and is an essential because salt water is going to get inside your reel. Where these guys go steps further is that you've got 2 points here, 2 points here. You also have point here, point here. There's a lot of drainage on the reels, and that's a good thing because when the reel is in the rack, you've got drainage from the bottom, not just one hole, but you've got a pair. And then when it's sitting down, you've got a lot of air circulation, which is a wonderful thing because you are going to get salt water in a reel. You're going to get moisture, you're going to get condensation. And those are all things that can contribute to bearing failure and to corrosion internally. With the Okumas, they've gone beyond what everybody else in the marketplace has. And that's a wonderful thing, and that's necessary. You can see the engraving on the sides, open top. This is a 20, which is a real useful piece for long range. There was one exception to the wide being a closed top frame. This is the 30 special edition. Basically, it's a long range designed reel. Given the drag curves on the Okuma pieces, the fact that they produce so much drag, they lend themselves really well to being stepped up in terms of the line test being used. Oh, let's get that phone. Okay, given the drag capability of these reels, they lend themselves very well to being stepped up in terms of line test. So with a 30, you could actually be loading on a 130-pound Spectra running a short top shot, and with a piece like this, probably get close to 500 yards line capacity with 130. They obviously, the use of Jerry Brown hollow Spectra, especially that 100-pound, opens things up even that much more. A lot of guys would use, say, 300 yards of 130, but this piece, the standard 20, lends itself really well to that 100-pound JB, because with that 100-pound loads up like 80-pound does, quite honestly, sometimes a little better. And so if spooled properly, you can bump this guy up and get darn close to 500 yards in terms of line capacity, plus a minimal top shot. Wonderful for long range fishing. But you can go up to the 130 on this 30 special edition or the 30 wide, the SC being open top versus the closed top design that you have on the standard 30, which is a 30 wide by anybody else's designation. Things that are unique. Let's see if I can reach over and grab this cutaway. One of our guys thought it would be fun to kill a piece of inventory for me. Not quite, really, but let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more here. Okay. This piece shows cutaway, and we've got our strike lever. If you can see in here at all, you can see They use a double dog system for their anti-reverse, which is very, very reliable. That's really the best way to go on a big reel versus one-way bearings. Bearings can fail. Bearings can have other issues where a dog is much more reliable. The way they've made these reels is just so doggone smooth between the helical cut gears, the way the prawls are on this double dog. It's very, very quiet in operation and very, very smooth in terms of performance. You can see the bearings here on the spool internally. They are they'll say it's a dual force drag on these reels, meaning you've got a couple of plates as well as a substantial drag element, which maybe we can make out here. You can see the carbon fiber drag internally, and then you've got two large plates on it here and on the other side of that drag plate. Again, what I mentioned, the porting on the reels, and you can see the gears, helical cut. And there's just nothing on the market that's as smooth as these, with possible exception, maybe of the new Tiburons that way. And you can hear it's quiet. And this is a cutaway. This should be loud, and it's not. So, in summary, Okuma Makaira, redefining the state of the art. Excellent pieces, no negatives whatsoever. They go from some small stuff, like a little 8, which a fellow by the name of Alan Tanny had a lot to do with its development. I mentioned Alan. He I guess saw these on our website, saw that we were pretty high on them, and then he started doing his own inquiry. And then Alan discovered, my God, these things are excellent. Yeah, and he kind of confirmed what I felt. Alan is a take it apart kind of guy. I'm not. I'll go by feel and fishing. Alan tore them apart and said, basically, these are some of the best pieces of gear made, period. And they're priced right at this point in time. No doubt pricing will go up over time. They learned that probably from Abbott. Start them out aggressively, get them on the boats, get them out there, let people know what they are. Once that's discovered, then a person doesn't have much reluctance to parting with the money, because they still are offering more, I think, than anything else on the marketplace for their given number of dollars invested. So, Okuma Makairas, if you get the chance, shop by the store, give them a try. No doubt you'll be seeing them on the boats as time goes on. Thank you. Bye. Oh, with a piece like the Makairas, there's always something I've forgotten to mention, but I should. They also utilize Sapporo bearings, which are a Japanese bearing. Sapporos are considered excellent. These are Class 5, Epic 5 bearings. They'll use 4 to 6 of those, depending upon the reel model. So that's the right kind of bearing. Warranty-wise, Makairas carry a 5-year parts and labor warranty. That's the best warranty in the business on a big game reel. 5 years. That's how strongly the manufacturer has confidence in this piece. So 5-year warranty, Class 5 bearings, Type 2 anodizing, all machined aluminum, quality stuff. I could go on Makairas, but on this video like this, we have limited time, and this is enough. Come by the shop if you can, or give us a phone call at Shark Bait. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.